Well, hello and welcome to Manx Radio's Countryside.
Manx Radio's
On
Countryside
Manx Radio
is brought to you by
myself,
NFU
Simon
Mutual.
Clark, and, well, what a worrying week it was. The boat wouldn't sail. They thought the Isle of Man was going to close, Kiri, wasn't it?
It really was. I suppose for your toilet rolls it was maybe a bit of a panic, but for local produce there's still an abundance of it here.
Yes, and we've got a lot of information, talking to a lot of people involved in that and touching on it in today's Countryside programme, because firstly, a couple of weeks ago we heard the Minister for DEFA, Geoffrey Boot, give a talk and presentation about the 10-year agricultural plan and the consultation that's been put forward. And of course, they're waiting for feedback from the Isle of Man farmers, and you got the feedback so far from the National Farmers Union here in the island.
That's right. Brian Brumby had an overview. He's a collective voice of the Manx farming industry, and he said it is a bit uncertain times with Brexit ahead, but he is urging farmers to get in touch about the consultation, and made the point that food security is an absolute must, to be sustainable here on the Isle of Man. So if the ferry doesn't go, that we have the right amount of produce to feed our nation. I know 85,000 is a lot of people to feed, but it's not out of the question. We can support that quite easily.
I've done a week on vegetables.
Really?
Yeah.
What's come over you?
I'll say no more about that, but it'll soon change. And also I speak to Andrew Newton, the leader of the Isle of Man Green Party, just to get an insight into what the Isle of Man Green Party is all about and what their aims are.
It's nice to see the younger people getting involved with the climate change, but also to hear Andrew talking about the farming industry and how essential it is for local produce, food miles, and people worrying about their health and what they're eating, and we can provide a great product here on the island on their doorstep.
And I'll not give too much away about quiches.
My word.
They are connected with donkeys along the way, but John Dog Collister from Kirkmichael will be telling us more near the end of the programme of what that's all about. So sit back and enjoy this week's Countryside. Well, we've got a bit of a mixed bag on this week's Countryside programme, Kiri. Firstly, a couple of weeks ago, we heard from the Minister of DEFA, Geoffrey Boot, talking about the consultation they had and the presentation about the 10-year agricultural plan on the island. You got a chance to get a reply.
I caught up with the president of the Manx National Farmers Union, Brian Brumby, to hear what the farmers are feeling around the countryside and how the year is going into 2019.
As you well know, the agricultural industry had a bad summer last year, or a bad winter even the year before, and then a bad summer. On top of that, the pressures have probably eased a little bit with a very mild winter. We're now waiting and hoping for an early spring and get ourselves back on a good footing then. But the upshot of it, of shortage of forage and bedding, is stock values have struggled. So we're not in the greatest of place at the moment, but hopefully in another month, with a bit of green grass and some warm weather, things will start to improve.
That is very true. It was a very difficult year, but like you say, spring is around the corner, Brian. The meat plant seems a little more stable now. Farmers seem to be enjoying better returns. I know there's a bit of an issue with the stagger and a waiting process. This makes farmers a little bit more forward-thinking with their bookings?
Yeah, farmers have got to help the meat plant and be professional, but the meat plant also, part of the original deal 12 months ago that was discussed in the tripartite meetings, was for them to find strategic partners which will help them take more stock through the plant. Up to the present, they've struggled to find that, and we're still putting pressure on them to go down that route and find these strategic partners. We as Manx farmers can produce these stock, and we need routes to market for these stock, and the best route to market is through the Isle of Man meats, and so the pressure's on them to find the markets.
Brexit hasn't really helped.
Yeah, it's not been easy in the last couple of months, as everybody in the farming side will know. There's a stagger on intake on beef on the island, which couldn't come at a worse time because, as I've just said, with spring coming up, there's a lot of costs in agriculture as we move into growing a fresh lot of crops this year. So cash flows are going to be greatly affected and put pressure on. So the Irish, with Brexit, there's they've been very scared that come the 29th of March, if we leave with a no deal, there'll be a 50% tariff on them importing to the UK. So they have basically slaughtered and processed just about everything they can ahead of time to avoid that tariff. If that is the case, and it appears to be the case, which is what's flooding the market at the moment, come April, May, logic tells you there should be a shortage going the other way.
And I believe with the Brexit looming, is it going to happen? What is going to happen? How does our farmers sit here on the island, Brian?
Well, it's impossible to tell. The UK government doesn't even know where Brexit's going, or the European Parliament at the moment. We have got this date of 29th of March. One suspects that's going to be extended at the moment, which will put more doubt into everybody's mind. What business needs is stability and clear direction, so they can work around that framework. And that's the one thing we haven't got at the moment. And as far as the Isle of Man is concerned, agriculture is going to be the area most affected with Brexit, because it's the one area that is actually tied in directly to European policy.
Yeah. Now, it is worrying times ahead, but what do you suggest to the farmers to do to prepare themselves here on the island?
As far as the farming is concerned, you've still just got to carry on farming, and you carry on doing the best practice and aiming to be profitable. With Brexit or without Brexit, there's still going to be financial pressures on producing for a market. Currently, we don't know what that market is, but you can be assured there'll be price pressure within that market.
Yeah. And now with DEFRA, it's rolled out its 10-year strategy plan. What is this, and how is this going to affect the farmers here?
The broad outlines of this new ADS scheme is broadly supported by the Manx MNFU. It came originally 12 months ago when the industry rejected the department's proposal on headage payments, and a counter proposal went back to the department about supporting the active farmer. We're very conscious of maintaining public support for agriculture. You will have heard people talking about paying farmers for doing nothing, the money going not to the farmer but into the landowner's pockets. And so the outline of this scheme and supporting active farmer moves us away from that, and so it makes it more justifiable for the support going into agriculture, that it's going to the right people for the right reasons.
And do you feel with the support now, it seems it's going more environmentally friendly? We've achieved the UNESCO Biosphere without any of the changes to the environmental side. How are farmers feeling about this? Is it something that really needs to happen, because obviously we've achieved it without it? Farmers, are they at unrest with it? Should it be more on the food security on the island?
Yeah, the environmental element again is about public support. I'm sure if our minister just went to Treasury and asked for more money for farmers, it would be a very hard sell. If he goes to Treasury and asks for some money towards the environment, that's better public supported and more justifiable. And yes, we have a biosphere, and a lot of people forget that we have already been awarded the biosphere, where people are taking that as what have we got to do to have a biosphere. But as I say, we have already got the biosphere. But having said all that, going forwards, the environmental side of the island, or the environmental side of the world, is important. Climate change, global warming, etc. are all there. And we've got to be seen to be doing our bit to support the environment, because it's not just us, it's future generations as well. But we as farmers are very bad at getting our message across or our story, and it's going to be our focus at the shows this year, that actually the beef and lamb produced on the island is green. It's pasture fed, and you take into account the sequestration of carbon through the growing grass, which is an element the scientists never seem to include in their calculations. And you take that in, and the carbon footprint from the beef and lamb produced on island, used on island, is a lot lower than shipping exotic fruit and vegetables and flying them around the world to put on supermarket shelves. And we've got to get that story and that message across to the general public and the buying public.
So if farmers, looking at the strategy now, they can have their say, they can put their fears, or it's all up for grabs still?
Yeah, the consultation that's currently out, we've got an outline direction which is supporting the active farmer, reducing the basic payments over 3 years by a slight amount each year. But with match funding from Treasury then on the accumulated funds, opening up what we call historically called the FIS grants, the improvement schemes, and there'll be a lot more opportunity for investment through these grants in infrastructure, in skills and in technology. And ultimately, farming is never going to get any easier. We have a lot of people that are having a tough time, but if you want to remain farming in the future, you've got to invest and go forward and get better. And just doing the same thing will end up with the same result. So the opportunity with this new scheme going forward, as we see it, that there is the opportunity to invest and to improve and make the farm more profitable.
So how do you see young people coming into farming, Brian? We still have the agricultural course. There's still grants available for young entrants.
Yeah, and we believe it's very important for the young people and on the education side to get a formal agricultural education before they actually come home and start the farming, to get off the island, to look at what other people are doing. And we're glad that the Isle of Man College and the agricultural students going in there, they've linked up with the Myerscough College in Lancashire to get those students off island, albeit for a short period, but hopefully that will lead to bigger and better things. And in my career, I'd left school and went to college and worked on various different farms and progressed through being a herdsman and a herd manager, etc. And some of the farms I went on, I learnt as much of what not to do as what to do. But it's all part of an education, and I wouldn't claim I get everything right now, but it's all part of that education.
Yeah, and I think that's right, Brian, in the fact that now you have to be business focused. It isn't just you get up in the morning and you go out in the fields and you do a bit of something with the sheep. You need to have a plan, you need to have a business plan, you need to know where your livestock's going to market, when it's going, and you'll have all your crop rotation there as business focused as you can be. Yeah,
and farming, in many ways, you've got to be a mix of being a scientist, a biologist, a veterinarian and an accountant, and to pull all these things together to make your business profitable and working efficiently.
So Brian, just lastly, for the consultation of the 10-year strategy plan, how do farmers go about replying to DEFRA?
Yeah, the consultation is online at the moment. It's open until the first week, end of the first week of April. So I would encourage people to look at that and engage with that process. We have got a direction of travel, but there's very little meat on that bones, and so the farmers have got a great opportunity at the moment to engage in this process and help direct where it goes. The one area where we're put into the department, yes, we can go forward with this new ADS scheme and produce the products, and I'm confident the Isle of Man can produce a lot more from its agricultural sector, which will be for the benefit of the island and its GDP. But it's no good producing these products if we haven't got routes to markets, and it's not just the Isle of Man meats. We have in the past, we were growing 2,000 tonnes of oats for making into porridge oats, and the price dropped on oats, and when you take in the cost of shipping on the boat, that has all but disappeared again, and they're the routes to market that we need in connecting into the UK market so that we can compete competitively.
That was Brian Brumby, the president of the Manx National Farmers Union.
Little bit uncertain, the future, I suppose, Kiri, isn't it?
It is, with Brexit just around the corner, and like Brian says, he's urging farmers to dig in and keep business focused. And like he says, he's wanting farmers to get to DEFA and put their points forward for the consultation. It's all to play for. There is no real direction at the moment, but he really, really urges the farmers to get their thoughts in there and to make a difference.
Indeed. Well, last week, Andrew Newton, the leader of the Green Party here on the Isle of Man, was a guest on Sunday's Perspective programme. While he was up there, I managed to get a chat, not too political, with him about what the Green Party's aims are and what they're all about.
The Green Party was formed in my living room at the time in the house in August 2016, so coming up for 3 years, sorry, of the party, and at that time there was 15 founding members, and now it's grown and building interest, and the salient concept or philosophy of the party is sustainability. So the constitution says that the object of the party is to strive for and promote and conceive policies for the sustainable future, for the society, for the economy, for the ecology, and for the environment of the Isle of Man.
So it's, we look at things that have happened on the Isle of Man before, the Isle of Man Friends of the Earth and groups like that. But this is more, I suppose, in the political side of it, is it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I mean, people might be aware that the Isle of Man traditionally hasn't had party politics, but yet it has had these very, very valuable, very important groups like Manx Wildlife Trust, Woodland Trust, Friends of the Earth, the Preservation for the Society, which has been around since the 1930s. And these have been really fundamental groups connecting their society with the environment that we live in, that's been celebrated by the Biosphere Accolade. And so that was really important to connect them. But then, in my eyes, as I was a member of the Green Party of England and Wales when I was at university and came back to the island, and recognised that there was this lack of connection then with policies for the governance. So how we introduce policies, and groups like Friends of the Earth lobby the government to bring about changes that they see are positive for the environment and the ecology in the Isle of Man. But I saw that there was a lack of an actual institution, a party politic, to go, these are our policies that can be informed by Manx Wildlife Trust, Friends of the Earth and the wider society, that we're going to be elected on and going to put forward for change in the future. So it was an extra piece in the jigsaw of the complexity of the Isle of Man.
Yeah, I suppose when you look at all the groups that you've mentioned there, I suppose it was difficult for them all to put their view forward one at a time in a way where this can be more of a collective venture.
Absolutely, and we can be a part of, and all those groups are valuable, and they all do distinct things, and they all have distinct objects, but we could be a conduit, a channel for all of their views to come together in a like-minded philosophy, sustainability being that central concept, and then put forward those policies through that lens.
Yeah. So how have these other groups taken to it?
Yeah, so, I mean, our membership's growing, so people are free to join the party. You can find out more on our website, www.greenparty.im, about the party, what it does, and how to join. You can join through the website. So members have joined, and groups have engaged with us on specific issues. Like, I can think of, we've had approaches recently on building regulations, for example, and what's the Green Party's view on this, and if we're going to go into an election, what will we be saying about these specific building regulations, which are important for things like efficiencies and capturing heat. And I can think of other examples. Manx Woodland Trust, they do invaluable work planting trees every weekend. We shared a post through our Facebook page last week about them planting trees. And again, there's members who attend those groups and be part of that. So there's some crossover between groups.
Yeah, and one thing that I've noticed recently is that, we sort of tend to place this in some of the older group society who've got more time on their hands and things to look at all of this. But a lot of the younger people in the Isle of Man and worldwide are getting involved in it, aren't they?
Absolutely. We saw that last Friday when we had the protests, I say, of school students around the world, but also in the Isle of Man, coming together on issues that they feel are important for the sustainable future of the Isle of Man, but also the global society that we're a part of, and we shouldn't forget that global society as well. When last week we saw our food establishments, the boat didn't sail, so we didn't have food, and that connected us. We're a global connection, but also provide another opportunity to connect ourselves with our own farming communities and the value that they can add providing food for our society. So yes, it was really good to see the students coming out on these important issues, and certainly students have engaged with us. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and we have a website, so we have lots of young members of society having the opportunity to engage with politics that, as you rightly said, historically might have been seen as this convoluted concept for all the people in society to do it later on in their careers, but that's been turned on its head by these opportunities and technology.
Yeah, and when you look around, what are the main worries? Do they differ from the younger generation to the older generation?
Well, I think again, with technology, society has the opportunity to inform itself about these complex issues, climate change being the key one, being a very complex issue, but then it's no longer distinct between parts of society. All society has the same opportunity to access this information, and there can be misinformation out there, and we certainly see that around the climate change skeptics debate, but it can really inform people equally to give them the information to identify what they should be passionate about and take forward, and the Isle of Man Green Party is just providing that conduit for society to come together and speak through.
Yeah, and it gives you that platform. I mean, you don't need to go out and on the streets, your party, and demonstrate and things like that, because you can do it in a proper, structured manner through the political channels.
You're absolutely right, and protesting is fundamental as well, but obviously the Isle of Man Green Party running candidates in election, hoping that the society will recognise that and elect those candidates in elections, and then it gives us another avenue to effect change within society, not only protesting, which is fundamental, but also putting forward meaningful proposals in the political forums for change, and to recognise that, the politicians recognising the support of that, and also having a membership base behind a political institution is important, because also you've got people holding you to account about what you're saying, but also informing you, providing a wealth of information, and that's a very efficient process at building up important thought out policies for the future of the Isle of Man, dealing with these complex issues.
Yeah, I suppose it does make it a lot more honest in a way, because like you rightly said, you're there speaking on a political platform on it, and you have to have the right facts and information available, don't you?
Well, absolutely. And speaking on behalf of the party, I'm a spokesman for the party, but I'm being held to account by the party for what I'm saying, and that's important. And also sharing in that philosophy, that concept of sustainability, which I would say is an important concept for society, and especially in the Isle of Man, recognising all these things, sustainability, how we do things, and what the decisions now we make, and how will that impact our future. And again, around the farming aspect and the food that we provide for our society, and the reliance we place on imports, and this is an important time to recognise that and take consideration of that in the events last week.
Yeah, we survived the 2 days. There was nothing coming in from the island, didn't we?
Just about, yeah.
It is. And just reiterate how people can get more information on the Isle of Man Green Party, Andrew.
Yes, so we're on Facebook, Isle of Man Green Party. We're on Twitter as well, and we're on Instagram. And all those sources can be accessed through our website, which is www.greenparty.im, and that's updated with information, and we post on social media about our next party meeting, which I think is on the 28th of March, if that's the Thursday, in Peel, and we'll be putting that through. And you can join our email list as a member, or if you just want to be an interested person, you don't have to be a member to be on the email list as well, and you can do that through our website, just filling on the online form and sending us your details, and we keep members and non-members regularly updated about what we're doing.
Leader of the Isle of Man Green Party, Andrew Newton, there with just telling us a little bit about what the Green Party are about and what their aims are, because, this, of course, the news stories at the moment, Kiri, with people talking about curriculums in the school to do with global warming and stuff. So it's big topics at the moment, isn't it?
It really is, especially at primary school level. These children are so passionate, and they're really, really getting under the skins of these children to say how important our climate is, our environment that we live in, and to make a difference in the future. And they're taking the bull by the horns, and they're out, doing their little bit, aren't they, around the countryside and within the schools.
Yes, they are. Good for them. You're listening to Countryside here on Manx Radio with Kiri Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. Well, not long before the Isle of Man Young Farmers concert, Kiri.
Oh, a really exciting few days on the way up to the start of it on Thursday. I bet these village halls have got a story to tell or two.
There'll be some shouting and thinging, won't they? Get this made in the last minutes. And I wouldn't say the made, some of them threw on together, aren't they?
They
some
really
of the props,
are.
right?
But that's what makes it, isn't it, Simon? It's the team coming together behind the scenes to make them props. They do fail, they do fall apart, but they rally on through it, don't they?
Yes, indeed. And that's, of course, this Thursday, Friday and Saturday. And then the following week here on Manx Radio, we'll dedicate Countryside to what happened on the night and speak to all the clubs, the judges and all the people involved in making it a wonderful success that it always is every year. Well, one success that's been in the Isle of Man have been the Bumby cages and all sorts of baskets made by John Dog and people over the years. John Dog Collis from Kirkmichael is one of the people who have kept this enterprise going, I suppose, using the willow from the hedgerows of the Isle of Man to create these things. But if I told you what a quiche was, would you know?
No, I would have thought it'd be part of a picnic lunch, maybe.
Well, indeed. Here's John Dog Collis to tell us more about this new project he's been involved in.
It's a bit of a long story. A lady sent me a link to somebody, a lady in Scotland who makes things called kishies, Kishies, kishies. They're like baskets that go on the side of a pony. And so it was an interesting website. So I was looking at this, and I sent her an email or a link or whatever, and explained where I lived and what I did and how we had a history over here making creels in the fishing industry and so on. So she sent back and she said, "Well, have you ever made a kishie?" I said, "Well, I never heard of a kishie till now." So anyway, the short story is, she said she gets people asking all the time, and she's too busy to make any. Was I interested? So I said, well, I've never made any, but if you send me some information, we'll have a look. So next thing, another lady called Helen, who's from Kilree in Scotland, got in touch. And she said, would I make her 2 kishies and how much? Well, I didn't know what they were. So I said, well, I maybe have a go. You send me sizes, what it wants to look like. So as you can see, basically it's a D shape. The flat piece at the back is 16 inches, and I work in inches too. Flat bit at the back is 16 inches, and then the D goes out to 16 inches from the centre. They sit on the pony on like an A-frame that's called a clibber. These are all words that I've only just learned. A clibber, it's sort of like an A-frame. It has pegs on it, and then you rope the kishies on either side. So that's why she wanted 2 the same size as well. So if you load them up, they're equally weighted, balanced.
You see these all around the world, though, in the poorer countries, I suppose, where you see the baskets on the size of the donkey for carrying transport and things. I mean, are they all made of these types of materials?
Well,
these ones willow, are they?
This is willow. This is, and as you can see, there's different colours, different makes of willow, different types of willow, which have different colours, and I put that in to give a little bit of contrast and make it look smart. And the other thing I've done is I've used different weaves so that visually you get different colours, different patterns, and I think it's easy on the eye.
Now, looking around your work area here, you've got lots of different types of willow and all sorts of things from the countryside that are probably just growing wild, I suppose.
Yeah, well, it's all, most of it is hedgerow stuff. I was pointy on the ground. I got elm, hawthorn, ash, and some cherry, which if you make a basket and put these in, they have like a particular texture and colour and finish, and they look different. But different willows some of the willows are very pliable, malleable, whatever the correct term is, and when you make a basket, you've got two folds in the ones that are the uprights. You've got a fold at the bottom, it goes in the base, and then it has a 90-degree fold to go up the side, and then it has another fold at the top, folds 90 degrees sideways, and then you form the rim round the top. Now, not all willows will bend that 90 degree without snapping. So you use specific willows that will bend and so on for the uprights. And then I can use, within reason, you can use anything to weave round about, and I've used all sorts. I've used palm leaves,
Right.
yeah, palm leaves, and I've used bits of rope to weave round and so on. So it's some palm leaves in the back there. It's just different colours. It all adds to the interest.
Yeah. I mean, does the willow change from different parts of the island?
Well, I think this most of the hedgerow willow is like I think the correct term is grey willow, and it's not fantastic for weaving, but it's okay. It's useful enough. Some of these willows, in a year, they'll grow 12 foot.
Really?
They're as thick as your thumb at the bottom, which is too thick for lots of things, but it's as thick as your thumb at the bottom, and it's 12 foot long, and hardly a branch on it, hardly a sprig on it. Now others, some of these hedgerow things, they sprout like a tree from the start, so they're not much use.
Is that because they're getting cut regularly?
Well, you see, when they pollard, is that the game terminology, pollard? They cut willows back each year. If you're dealing in willow, everything is cut right back to the base, and then it sends out rods, wands, all sorts of different names, and you then harvest them at the back end. If you don't harvest them, the next year what's grown as a single wand will then sprout into a tree. So a lot of these things you have to harvest them each year, and as you can see, some of these things, I've got some in the corners like 10 foot. And these things will grow that long. So specific willows, there's some that will grow like 4 foot, and not quite the size of a pencil, and they grow 4 foot. Now, other willows, if you grow 4 foot, from the tip to the base can be as fat as your little finger, or even one of your fingers, and really that's a bit thick to be weaving. So you might have 4 foot, but you'll have to cut a foot off it for it to be sort of useful, so you end up with 3 foot. Now, the longer they are, is obviously the better and easier they are to use. So, but they have different colours and different textures, so you use a whole lot of different stuff. But the certain willows, and I can't tell you where they are because I'd have to kill everybody on the Isle of Man. Anybody's listening, I'd have to kill them. But the certain willows that are a particular maker willow, and are not well up on all these different makes, that, as I say, are wonderful to work with. They're pliable, they bend easily, you can tie knots in them if you wanted to, and they're thin, so you've got a lot of length, and they're not too thick, and you can use them to make nice baskets. But I like character, and a lot of these things may be short and stumpy, but they got character.
Well, looking at the Kishi that you've completed here, well, there's 2 of them. I mean, they're about probably 2 foot high or so. I mean, how long would these take to make?
The first one, the second one went a bit easier. First one I was trying to solve lots of problems as they arose, so probably a day and a half, the first one.
No, not too bad then.
No, I had all the willow here, you could argue if somebody said how much will it cost, well, you would include going to source the willow. You know, might be half a day in that, and so you can put a half a day on the top of that, and so on. But I'm not doing it for profit. I'm just doing it because I'm interested. And this lady got in touch with me, and she might give me something. I've said to her I'm not charging her, but when I go over there, she might give me money for petrol and this, that, and the other.
But when you look at you've spent years making different things and going around to schools and having events here in Michael Village, showing people how to make little things. Yeah. And any variation, I suppose, is an interest to you as well.
Oh, yes. My next thing, I must find out about creels and see...
Creels, which I think are like lobster pots and things.
Well, they're what they used to... they used to take the herring off the boat in creels. They were all a specific size, so that if everyone was sitting on the quayside full, they would probably have what they call a form or a shape that they would make them round, so that they were all more or less the same size within reason. So if they were full to the brim, you would know there was X amount of, I think, cran, weren't they? The willow was, the herring was measured in. So I'd like to, my next thing is I'll have a look at a creel and see how a creel's done. But there's all sorts of different way. I think a creel is open weave. Instead of, like my basket, it's solid. You've got the uprights and there's weave all the way from the bottom to the top. But I think a creel might have some weave at the bottom, and then the uprights, they're fairly close together and there's no weave in there. They're kind of open, probably to let water out more easily and so on. So I'm only talking off the top of my head here because I want to go and get a look and get some photographs and sizes, and then maybe have a go, see if I can make a creel. I don't think it'll be useful. I don't think any of the boats will be wanting these things nowadays. But incidentally, I was sent an email by a friend and a link to some site, and it's talking about crafts that are disappearing. And there's certain crafts, this is countryside crafts, fishermen's crafts, all sorts of things. And this kishies is on this list. And what it's saying is nobody's making them anymore. And there's also like arrows for bows, made by people, bows even. And barrels, I think there's people making barrels. But this sort of old-fashioned kind of craft, a lot of these things are disappearing.
And then there'll be nobody left.
Nobody left. So this probably won't look like a proper kishi, but it's what I've made. It's the way I could make it. I don't know whether I could make a proper kishi because I'm still not that certain how they were made. But I've made something that resembles the size, as she said, the way that I know how to make baskets. And if it serves the purpose, you could argue it'll do the job, and it might be an adapted kishi.
Well, that's it for this week's Countryside. Some good points there put by Brian Brumby, the president of the Isle of Man National Farmers Union, and of course Andrew Newton from the Isle of Man Green Party. Yeah, both really, really influential on the agricultural industry and on how the Isle of Man is shaped as well. And it's really great to see people are passionate about where they live and to look after our environment for the next generation. Yeah, and you know more about kishis now. I certainly do. And John Dogg doing a great job of keeping those old traditions alive with the different methods, and people can go along and take part in his basket weaving classes as well, can't they? Yes, they can. All right, that's it for this week's Countryside then. We'll be back with next week's podcast, which will be a special all about the 2019 Isle of Man Young Farmers Concert. So until next week, from me, Simon Clark. And me, Kiri Kermode. We'll see you then. Ta-da. Bye-bye.